Hello, hello, everyone.
Welcome to the show. Hello. Do you have our lovely little introduction that you would like to read?
No, not this time.
Well, hello, everybody. Happy day before 4th of July day. And this is Fractured Justice, our second episode. If you tuned in last week, you heard the horrors, the atrocities, the psychological thrillers of the mind and the human psyche, and some of the most heart wrenching stories that we have found. And I almost want to say, unfortunately, if we keep the show going, the fact that we're finding more and more stories makes it even more heart wrenching. So, if you like true crime, if you like the macabre, the villainous, the what words am I using? I'm trying, because I mean, these are really, I mean, viewer discretion is advised as we talk about some of these stories, but we try to give a variety of some of the human atrocities that are happening as of right now.
Most of these are very recent too, so
Yeah, we're trying to give current stories, current events, which in the case of current events, sometimes we have to use, like, this is all alleged stuff. Anything that we're saying, this is for entertainment purposes only. We call it fractured justice because we want you, the viewer, to determine, has justice been served? Has it been fractured? What are your opinions on some of these cases based on some of the facts and some of the allegedness that comes out from these cases? We would love to hear what you have to say in the chat. And of course, if you notice, we have a little scroll by going by. Dubby Energy Drinks. We are sponsored by Dubby. So if you like a jitterless energy drink that gives you a boost without that caffeine shakiness, definitely try Dubby. If you use the code Maledictus at checkout, you will get 10% off your orders. So definitely try Dubby Energy Drinks. They have a wide variety. I absolutely love them. They have a watermelon one that is amazing. So
they have a peach one that's amazing as well.
they're all amazing. We've been trying the different flavors. They really are. Dragon fruit, passion fruit, watermelon, peach. Yay! They're good. So what is on your mind? Anything on your mind, or shall we get right into it? Or
Let's just get right into it, I think.
okay, so I think the first story is an important story because what is tomorrow?
4th of July.
And what happens during 4th of July?
Fireworks?
Fireworks, yes. In fact, that's one of the things that I'm actually going to be going to. I'm going to the local show. And I think what's exciting about it locally is the fact that the Air Force Base, because I live close to an Air Force Base, they're going to actually be doing a bomb detonation for the crowd. So they're going to be detonating bombs as a bomb breakdown practice or whatever they do. I guess they have to dismantle old bombs or something like that. So they're just going to blow it up in front of us. So that should be fun. And then the jets will go by and we'll have fireworks. But I think that brings us to the very first story because I think this is a horrific story. I mean, I know I'm cheering on about 4th of July, but even as happy as things can be, tragedies can happen. So the first story talks about how police fatally shoot a man who was lighting fireworks in his backyard. So what do you think about that? You're having a backyard barbecue, you're minding your own business, you're lighting fireworks, and what happens? The police come, raid you, and they shoot you through the fence?
Like, why were they even called?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Would you like to read the little blurb, or you want me to take over? Because
Let's get into it.
Okay, well, basically, the police fatally shot a man who was lighting fireworks in his backyard in Downey on Sunday. They were called to the 7100 block of Stewart and Gray Road near Purnell Avenue at around 6:15 because there was a report of disturbances. When officers arrived on the scene during their investigation, there was an officer-involved shooting. The male subject was shot and died from his injuries. Witnesses claim that the incident began when a neighbor who has mental health issues was lighting fireworks in his backyard and got into an argument with another neighbor. The exact circumstances leading up to the shooting remain unclear, but, and this was in California, California Justice Department will be investigating this incident as the man was unarmed when he was killed. So now,
Well,
yes, go ahead.
the reports technically say he had an airsoft rifle, and the police claim that he shot at them first, and they fired back through the fence, killing him.
And see, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. They shot him through the fence. So how do they know if they're firing indiscriminate? I mean, how do they know there wouldn't have been a kid behind the fence? Or
How did they know he was firing in the first place if he's on the other side of the fence? Secondly, how did they not hear a gunshot? Because it's an airsoft rifle.
and those don't even make noise. Those will just be like, if anything, right?
Right. So, what the F?
Well, the sad story is you could see a picture right there. His name was Alberto Arenas. He was only 29 years old. And I'm assuming that's a picture with his child, his son. They did say that he potentially allegedly had mental health issues. It doesn't necessarily say what type of issues. And of course, when you're dealing with mental health, there can be a whole array of what type of problems, which that's something that, this is me personally, I feel like the police are not equipped to handle and understand mental health issues, because you hear these, right, you hear these stories time and time again where instead of trying to calm and diffuse the situation, a lot of times they will use deadly force to subdue the victim, and it ends up getting situations like this. Now, of course, this is an ongoing investigation. We don't have all the details, and that's what's going to happen with a lot of these stories that we talk about, because they are so new. These stories generally we talk about happen within this week, last week, so they're very new. So we're still gathering information, and the question is, in this case, allegedly he possibly had an airsoft rifle, which I can understand. That could be mistaken as a rifle, as a gun, as something that he would, but you don't, I see that crinkly face. You don't think if in a stressful situation, if somebody brings out an airsoft rifle, that they're going to determine that that's a BB gun?
I mean, they have orange tips for a reason.
Do they necessarily all have them? I mean, the older models, I mean, okay, legally you have to have, in the newer models you have to, but I mean,
They've had
okay.
orange tips for over a decade.
Yeah, but there's also guns that are older. No?
I don't know.
I remember finding a an airsoft pistol in my grandfather's belongings way back when, and I freaked out because I actually thought it was, I didn't realize that it was an airsoft one, but it's like, but it was old. I mean, we're talking like 1920s old. But I mean, I can understand where, if there is some sort of gun, even if it's a fake gun, even if it has an orange tip, it is potentially something that you're not going to notice right away in the heat of the moment. You're going to automatically assume. Plus, if he was aggressive, we don't know whether he was aggressive or not. Still pending investigation. So, I mean, I'm not defending her, but if he had an airsoft rifle in his hand and he's aiming it or waving it around, that could be misconstrued as a deadly weapon, and it is justifiable that police potentially did what they did. I mean,
right, but still they fired through the fence.
Correct. And one of the reports said that he was an unarmed man. So already there's conflicting reports as well. Like one report says that he had an airsoft rifle. Another one said he was an unarmed man. Shooting through the fence, we don't know any details about the fence. Was it a chain link fence? Was
No,
it
it's a wooden fence.
It was
It's
a wooden fence.
They showed it.
Oh, they okay. See, I'm sorry, I didn't see the wooden fence. So in this case, has justice, I mean, this is going to be like, do you hold the cops accountable that they made a mistake? Or is this a justifiable defense on the cop's part because you have a mentally ill man that may or may not be waving, even if it's a fake gun. But if it is, oh, go ahead.
I'm not saying he wasn't in the wrong, because he probably was, but did he deserve to lose his life for it?
Yeah, that's
No.
And that's why I almost feel like, which I said before, they don't have enough training to deal with people of mental health. I mean, I almost feel like you have to treat every single person as if they are a mental health case. Like if they go into a stressful situation thinking right off the bat that this person has mental health issues, I wonder if that will make things better or worse with how they deal with situations.
They go into every situation thinking that their life is in danger and they act accordingly.
Okay.
So, mental illness or not doesn't matter. They already think that someone's trying to kill them from the start.
And that's the sad part, is if it is proven that they were acting in self-defense, then absolutely nothing is going to happen in this case. It's just
Nothing's
going to
going to happen either way.
It's going to be tossed under the rug, and it's just going to be ignored. And unfortunately, it's a fracture in our justice system that an innocent man, a father, that little baby is no longer going to have their father because the police came over on a holiday weekend. Like, even though tomorrow's a holiday, the whole week you spend doing fireworks. And just because he was lighting some fireworks, he lost his life. And that makes it really sad.
Definitely.
Aww. And I mean, it just goes to show you, like, in this type of thing, tomorrow is 4th of July. A lot of people are going to be lighting up fireworks. They're going to be doing this. It's going to be noisy. A lot of states, it's illegal to light. I mean, I lived in New York. It's illegal to light fireworks. People did it anyway. They're going to just be blowing it up in the street. And I do understand how certain neighbors, certain people will be objecting to the noise, the sounds. I mean, one of the biggest things is the fact that what it does to animals.
Mm-hmm.
People who are animal owners, this is the toughest time. They lose the most dogs. Dogs will go crazy because they will escape from the fence, because the animals get terrified with the loud noise. Which, just as an interesting little tidbit, in other countries, they actually have noiseless fireworks to prevent that, because of the damages that it does to animals and to noise pollution and stuff like that. But yet we never, because here in the USA, we want everything to be loud, banging, and I mean, like I said, I'm literally going to a bomb demolition tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, yeah, they're going to blow up bombs. What's wrong with me? It's the thrill of the, but it's sad that it can have, and I mean, particularly with a lot of older people who may have sensitivity to sounds, PTSD, it could be a horrific time. That July 4th is remnants of very tough times.
True.
So I think this is an interesting case that I do want to hear more about as to what happens in the future of this case, because I would like to know what happens with the police. Are they going to be held accountable for it, or is it just going to get swept under the rug? And this is the one and only story that we're going to hear from them.
I don't think we're going to hear more from this.
You think this is it? Yeah. And I will say this, with all these stories, that's what ends up happening. You read the stories, it's nothing but headline news. It gets shoved under, and then the next story is just even more horrific than the last one. And that's,
we've got some doozies today.
Yeah. And like I said, this is only episode 2. And the fact is that if we keep making more and more episodes with the fact of what just happened this week alone, that's sad. I mean, I'm actually waiting for us to start going all the way in the past, that we can start doing like past unsolved mysteries. But there's just way too many things that are happening right this moment that. All right. So bring up the next one.
Case number 2.
Case number 2. All right, so this one is heart-wrenching, and it's dealing with minors. Do you want to read up on this one, or?
This one, boy named Bobby Mayhair and his girlfriend were at their local mall, and 2 other teens, age 15, stole some knives, tracked them down, body slammed the boy who was trying to protect his girlfriend, and stabbed him to death.
Now, this did happen allegedly. This did happen on April 7th. So what's ending up happening now is the 2 that allegedly stabbed, they're going to their trial now. So that's why this is in the news at the moment.
They've pled not guilty.
Yes, they pled not guilty.
Even though they're on video wearing masks doing it.
And allegedly what the case was is they had a prior altercation in a park because supposedly the 2 15-year-olds were seen coming out of a bathroom together. So the circumstances is allegedly Bobby made fun of them. They got into a fight. When the girlfriend was at the mall, the 2 were following her around. She calls up her boyfriend and says, look, they're harassing me. They're following her around. What am I going to do? He comes to the mall. They get into another fight. And like you said, they took knives that they stole from a store. One kid held him down and the other one stabbed him. And pretty much he passed away on that one. And he was only 14 years old. And it's a tragic story because not only did a 14-year-old, the 2 15-year-olds, they're still kids as well. They're going to go down. I mean, okay, if one may or may not, I don't think they're going to be tried as adults. I think they're going to probably stay as juveniles. But still, they're going to be locked up for a long time if they're found guilty on this one. So it basically destroys their life. They didn't even get a chance to, and poor Bobby lost his life in this.
And over what?
The fact that they were made fun of because they both came out of a bathroom at the same time. I mean, yes, you can allude to many thoughts on what the 2 guys were doing in the bathroom together, but is that enough to retaliate and hold somebody down and on camera? That's why I said they have footage of this where the one kid is holding him down and the other one is plunging a knife into him, killing him. So he did not survive it. And even as the girlfriend recorded this. She recorded the fight. So there's video of her phone, which the police have the cell phone footage of that, which I'm not particular this case, but in all cases, why is it always that people would rather record something than intervene?
I don't know.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is that there are so many people that will record as opposed to stopping the situation, screaming, getting help. No, it's like they whip out their cell phones and they'd rather just get it on. It's the sensationalism of getting it on film as opposed to actually stopping the situation, helping out somebody else, and breaking up the fight. But then again, here's a question for you. Would you break up a fight if people were fighting with a gun or a knife or this or that?
Would I personally?
Yeah, what would you do?
I have before. You get cut. But here's the thing. She might not have been capable of breaking it up.
That's true.
So all she could do is possibly scream and record at the same time and hope somebody else would intervene.
See,
That's devil's advocate there.
That's true. I mean, in my case, I will be honest, I would probably get out of there. Get the hell out of there. I would not stay. If something happens, it's like my first instinct is to get out of the situation immediately. Forget about recording, forget about this. I mean, even today, this has nothing to do with this, but I even had an incident today where something strange happened to me, where this guy decided to just literally jump out of his car window, come running over to my car and banged on my car. I have no idea why he did that. And then I guess he looked at me and realized I wasn't who he thought I was. So he literally dove headfirst back into his car. And I was in shock because I didn't know, do I call 911? I mean, I was about to call 911 when he started banging on my car. But then when he looked at me directly, he just turned around, ran back in his car, and dove headfirst through his window. Like the window was down. But that's what he did. He stopped and then he drove right over the sidewalk.
Meth is a hell of a drug. I don't know.
And I have no idea why he did that. And I mean, okay, I'm just like, all right, in that situation, should it have gone worse? Where maybe he did pull out a knife or a gun or this or that, or maybe he decided to have road rage. Because I've been in a situation where a guy literally took a baseball bat, got out of his car. It wasn't my car, it was a car in front of me. Got out of his car and started beating on the car, breaking all the windows and smashing and just going nuts. What did I do? I drove away and called 911. I'm not staying in that situation. I'm not getting involved. I am getting out of the situation as quickly as possible. I don't care about recording or anything, but I'll make sure that the police are aware of it when I feel that my safety is okay. So, like I said, in this case, what would somebody do? Now, this did happen on April 7th, but they're just trying the 2 15-year-olds at this time. So that's why it's making the news at this moment. But you have an innocent, you have a 14-year-old boy and 2 children, 15-year-olds, and all 3 of them have destroyed their lives. They killed off the one, and the 2 of them now have to face their consequences on what happened with this horrific tragedy.
Yeah, it's terrible. And where were the parents?
That's true. But then again, that's another thing. I mean, I almost want to say kids have so much independence. They get left off at, they got left off at the mall. They go to the mall, they can do whatever they want, they hang out. It's almost like you don't need parents anymore. I mean, think about the 80s generation. They would have to have, it's 10 p.m., do you know where your kids are, just as a reminder, because where were your kids?
Well, usually home by that point because it was dark.
Hopefully, yes. That was the hope, that they were hopefully home, that nothing tragic happened to them, or they weren't taken, or anything bad happened to them. But in this case, Bobby Mayer never came home because he was held down by 2 15-year-olds who stabbed him. Oh, I guess we got to go to story number 3.
I guess so.
These stories are getting worse. All right, so this story, I mean, I try when I go through some of these stories, I try to pick a wide variety of stories to showcase different things. And you would think that you get the same type of criminal or this and that, but it just goes to show you it doesn't matter what race you are, what religion, what everybody in some fashion goes off the deep end and human tragedies happen. So in this case, a baby dies after a young mom cut the umbilical cord with a kitchen knife and failed to secure it after. So decided to, because the blood just kept going, decided to take the baby and throw it out the window and just fling it out the window. This happened in Philadelphia, and according to the police, the young mom and dad, later identified as 20-year-old Emily and 19-year-old Joshua, they did not put the last names. They were taken into custody and later charged with multiple charges, including criminal homicide, concealing the death of an infant, and other charges that they killed their baby. The responding officers discovered that the parents reportedly threw their baby out the window after the newborn bled to death.
So first question, why weren't they at a hospital for this baby?
Very good. And that's a great question. I mean, that's a very good question. Did they try to cover this up that she wasn't pregnant? That like, was it a secret pregnancy? That they're trying to do, because one of the big things is in these cases where like the mom kills the baby and this and that, what breaks my heart is they have so many places that you can drop off your kid and they will never see anything. The child safe haven areas that you could do it at the hospital, you could do it at the police station. They even have the little ovens, I call them ovens, that you push the thing down, put the baby in, close it up, and you just walk away, and you will never have to deal with the baby ever again. And I say that because there are so many people out there who do want to adopt children, who want infants. They don't want to adopt grown children, which I think that's a travesty of our foster system, but they do want babies. They absolutely want babies. And in cases like this, you have so many young parents, young moms who will kill their child for whatever reason. Now, we don't know whether that's, I mean, it says that she cut the umbilical cord. We don't necessarily know whether the baby was dead to begin with, and then she cut the cord. And I mean, you know what I mean? Because the baby will still be bleeding. I'm assuming they're going to do an autopsy and find out exactly what the thing is. But this is a sad story because not only did they fling it, what was the use of flinging it out the window? That's what I don't understand.
I don't understand why a 20-year-old has to hide her baby to begin with. Yeah. It's not like she's a minor.
Right, she's...
Was she afraid she was going to get kicked out of the house at age 20?
Or is this...
She's an adult.
She isn't. Well, yeah, 19, 20. They're both, yeah. I mean, I know they're not 21, but they're both adults. They'll be tried as adults in this case. But there's also a question of, is this like have anything to do with postpartum depression? Like, does that cause you to want to kill your baby?
It sounds like it was an accident, and then they tried to hide it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of bad choices, one after another, in this case.
I mean, it's almost as if in cases like these, you're better off not hiding the situation. You're better off just coming to terms that says, look, my baby passed away. I tried, or whatever, or I gave birth. It was still connected. I tried to cut the umbilical cord off. I mean, if you just fess up and says, okay, I was going to go to the hospital, but the baby already came out. It's connected to me. The first thing I thought was to cut the umbilical cord off. And because maybe she didn't know how to do that, maybe it bled out. Then they freaked out. Okay, now I have a lifeless baby. What do we do? Okay, let's just throw it out the window. That doesn't make sense. I mean, that's where the part that's tragic. If they would just face it and like go to the hospital and say, look, I tried to save my baby. My baby passed away.
Was this in their home, or was this out their car window?
No, like, it was at their home. It was at like an apartment complex.
So they had no intention of going to the hospital.
That's what we're allegedly assuming. Yes, they had no intention of that. That's going to be the assumption of.
I wonder if drugs were involved.
And as always with any of these stories, these are up to the minute cases. So some of these cases we may not have all the details, but that's a good question. Was drugs involved as this?
So. And this is another case with the kitchen knife. The case before this was kitchen knives as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's interesting is with the story we just previously had, where the children stole the knife from the other store, this is the same thing as the Golden Eagle case last week with Bianca. She stole the kitchen knife from the thrift store next door to the Golden Eagle, came out waving the knife around as she's shopping in the store, turns around, follows the mother and child, and then just before the mother and child got into their car, she went on a stabbing spree, stabbing both of them. Unfortunately, the little boy passed away. So there are a lot of cases happening now with knives. And it's, I mean, I know this is a controversial thing, but a lot of people complain about Second Amendment rights, gun rights, and stuff like this. Whereas in Europe, they don't necessarily, like in the UK, they don't allow guns. So the number one form of homicide in the UK is through knives. They
Mhm.
don't even talk about knivings and stabbings here. Like it's not a big issue involving weaponry. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's not something that's really talked about when I think it's just as important of an issue to discuss as it would be in guns.
It's not hot button enough, so it doesn't get discussed.
But yet it probably happens so many more times with all the different knivings and stabbings that I almost feel like it should be more discussed. Plus,
Probably should be.
everybody has access to knives everywhere. Knives are everywhere. And the fact that in these cases, they're all stealing knives from stores, not even paying for the knives. So it's like you can't even put regulations on purchasing knives because they're stealing them anyway and committing these crimes. So,
Next case.
next case. Okay. All right. I'm not laughing. I shouldn't laugh at this one. But when you learn some of the details about this particular case, I want to follow this particular case because I think this is going to turn into a movie. They're going to create a movie out of this. I really believe, because this case is unbelievable. So the headline is Georgia firefighters fought at an Olive Garden while one was on a date days before being found dead in Tennessee. Now that's the headline. Long story makes short, you have these two firefighters. They are co-workers together. They have been in a toxic relationship for 7 years. So they're friends, they're moms. They will say that this has been an on and off toxic relationship, back and forth, constantly fighting and stuff like this. So supposedly, the woman, I can't see her name. I'm sorry.
His mother.
I'm sorry. What?
It was his mother.
No, I'm the woman. The Chandler. It's Chandler. Chandler Kubadarin and Regan Anderson were discovered on that car. I was trying to get the name of those two. I couldn't read the name on the bottom. So supposedly, the girlfriend found him at a restaurant at Olive Garden, where he was on a date. She was the ex-boyfriend. He was on a date. Went outside and started keying his car just days before the pair went missing. Okay. Both were employed as firefighters in Hinesville, Georgia, and details about how they died were not released, though both of the bodies have been sent for autopsy. So there is going to be a case. I mean, there is going to be a follow-up on this because we've got to wait for the autopsy results. But police are attempting to piece together their final hours because they were last seen on June 25th at the Liberty County Fire Service Station. They appeared on surveillance footage from a gas station, and although Kubandar was not seen in the footage, they claim that the phone has been tracked to that location. So that's the last time that they were seen. And according to that footage, there wasn't any, it was just he went into the car. That was simply it. It didn't look like fighting. It didn't look like anything like that. But after that case, once he went into the car, days later, they're found dead, both in the car. Now, based on that information, I mean, I'm going to make some speculations. I don't know if this is the case or not. I'm wondering if it was a murder-suicide sort of thing. Or was it an accidental where they both fought each other and then both died? Or something along those lines.
Was it a collision?
Well, no, they just found them dead in the car, but they're not exposing how they were found dead or why they found. Maybe it was some kinky thing that maybe they were doing something in the car, like makeup, and it got out of hand, and Maybe they went into a tree. We don't know. There's no details. They're not releasing it. So something tells me to follow the story, because there is going to be a lot more to this story as to what actually happened to these two. Particularly since they were saying that she had a lot of mental illness in regards to him dating other people, and how their relationship over the past 7 years has been.
And his mother believed that he had been coerced, according to reports.
Which is, yeah, I mean, that's possibly, if she coerced him into the car, and then maybe she did something to him, or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe he did something to her, or they got into a struggle. They both did something to each other.
Was
I don't know.
Involved?
Or maybe that's what it is. Maybe it was one of their lovers. We have no idea. And that's why I wanted to make highlight of this case, because there is no information whatsoever as to what happened to these two. But the fact that their relationship was so crazy over the past 7 years, and how she's keying his car, yelling at him at the restaurant, getting jealous. So this might be like one of those Lifetime movies that will appear explaining this.
They worked together. They were in a relationship for years.
Mm-hmm.
So things couldn't have been too terrible between them.
And I'm curious what the other firefighters have to say as well, like how they're handling it, because I mean, firefighters are a very close-knit community. So it's almost like, did they not know? Did they not see the signs? Was there issues happening?
We'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
All right. So any thoughts or anything?
This one is just tragic. And I first heard about it last week in one of the true crime groups that I'm in. It was actually posting by his mother.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't know what to think of it, because he was just missing at the time.
So at that point, they didn't even find him yet.
He had been missing for like 3 days. And it was like, okay, he's missing with his ex-girlfriend. That's probably nothing. Turns out I was wrong.
So yeah, I mean, the immediate thought is that if someone's missing and the girlfriend just had the fight, then the girlfriend did something. But in this case, they found both the girlfriend and him. And I mean, okay, this is going to sound weird. What if it was something, and this is just a theory, like I said, we don't have the facts, we don't know anything about this case, but what if it was something as silly as they are in the car with the car running, and it ends up doing like the carbon monoxide poisoning because they're sitting in the car too long, and then both of them just passed out and died because of the exhaust being so strong?
That would be a tragedy. But
that would be a tragedy. And I mean, it just makes you wonder, like, what happened? I mean, this is a case, I really want to know what happened to these two. But obviously, we won't know until the autopsy, and they're not releasing any results. Like, they're not releasing anything on this. So, generally speaking, autopsies take a very long time. So, we're talking about, we're not even going to get information for about 2-3 months. That's usually how long it takes.
Especially and by not high profile.
Right. But I mean, just in general, it takes so long, and it gets squashed in the headlines anyway, that who knows what's going to happen. And I mean, that's another reason why I have to say our system is fractured, is because the amount of time it takes to do all these cases, to do all the whole judicial process. Because I almost feel like, all right, if you're getting arrested for something, then you should have your trial immediately. Like, you know what I mean? Not, oh, your trial is going to be 9 months from now, where you get to determine whether you plead innocent. You know what I mean? It's like you go through the whole, it's too long for all these cases. I just wish that there would be things that were quicker and things that would be speedier. You know? So,
Next case.
all right, shall we go to the next case? Okay. I threw this in. I threw this in for a reason. Why don't you start reading this, and then I'll give my opinion. Okay.
So Ursula Haverbeck, age 95, from Germany, dubbed the Nazi Grandma, has been sentenced to another 16 months in prison for Holocaust denial. Because in Germany, denying the Holocaust is illegal. I don't know how to feel about this one. I didn't even read up on this case, so I'm not sure why she wants me to read it. But I guess she had to go for a moment. Evidently, she's been found guilty multiple times of denying it. And this is just one more sentence that she's going to have to serve. I don't have words for this. I don't know why someone would deny it. I can't play devil's advocate there. So I don't know.
Okay. All right. I put this as a very, very interesting case. And the reason I put this in, now, first of all, this is obviously in Germany. So this is not a United States thing. So over there, if you deny the Holocaust, it is against the law. Now, here in the United States, if I say, and this is not my belief, but if I say that, yeah, I don't think the Holocaust happened, I have the right to believe that. People will hate me for that. People could say, how could you do that? How could you be a denier? How can you believe that? But you know something? I have the freedom and I have the choice that I could say this. I almost want to give her props, not for what she believes in, but for the fact that she's going by her principles, doing what she believes, and pretty much she's like a martyr for the system that this is my beliefs. I don't believe it never happened. And she's going to jail for this.
But she was there. She was a guard. She knows what happened. So,
correct.
What?
Well, she's saying in her mind, it was simply a labor camp, that it wasn't a concentration camp, that they didn't do genocide. That
so
is
what's
her
the difference?
belief. Good question. What's the difference? I mean, here's just throwing out like a devil's advocate. In the future, how are people going to view detention centers like right now, like the ICE detention centers? How are people going to view that in the future?
Not well. We don't view them well now.
Right. But I mean, what if that's how she interpreted what the camp was at the time? What if that's how?
Doesn't matter how she interpreted it because she's trying to deny facts that are easily provable.
But that's why I'm bringing the case. Does she have justification to be thrown in jail simply because she disagrees or interprets her perception of the world is completely different than what the perception actually is, that what the fact is?
The fact that she could easily just say, okay, it happened, and not go to jail, and she's choosing to go back to jail.
That's why I wanted to. That's why I wanted to point out this particular case, because, like I said, she's 95 years old. She's probably going to spend. Well, she's obviously going to spend the rest of her life in jail. She will probably rot in jail, and I mean that could even be a whole reason of why she's going to jail. Maybe she's happy in jail. Maybe she gets her meals. She gets a roof over her head. She gets, I don't know, she gets her own little solitary confinement place or whatever. I mean, maybe that to her is life to lead. I don't know, but I wanted to bring this as an interesting thing because from my perspective, and like I said, people may disagree, I don't agree with her belief that the Holocaust doesn't happen, but I'm against the fact that she is being tried, imprisoned, simply for having that belief, for being a Holocaust denier. Not the fact that she is a Holocaust denier, the fact that because she believes in that, that's what she's going to prison for. And to me, I think that's really fractured justice. Okay, this is like a crazy thing. That's like me, I believe in some conspiracy theories. If I start spouting off my conspiracy theories, are you going to throw me in jail simply because I believe that?
No, but we have laws to protect you in this country.
Right.
And
but in other
in
countries,
her
they
country,
don't.
she doesn't. So,
So she goes to jail for that.
so by their laws, justice is served. I don't know.
It's a really, really tough case. That's why I wanted to bring attention to this particular case. Simply because, and plus, okay, she's dubbed the Nazi grandma. I don't know why I found that funny. It's not funny, but I mean, it's like, here's a 95-year-old woman who's so set in her ways that's saying the Holocaust never happened, and she's getting thrown in jail again for it because they already found her guilty of it on multiple occasions in a 2015 trial. And even now, they're bringing her out and say, hey, you can have your freedom, you can have this. What's your stand on the Holocaust? And she still says, nope, it never happened. So boom, right back to jail she goes. That's pretty much what the case is. So I want to say she's almost dare I say she's a martyr in this case.
I don't know about a martyr. She's definitely stubborn. I don't know. I mean, even if something was completely against my beliefs and I had the choice between jail and freedom, I think I'd pick freedom.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, we don't know her personal situation. Maybe for her, jail is the best place to be in her life, particularly if she spent so many years in jail. I mean, she was found guilty on multiple occasions on this.
Maybe. I don't know.
And I mean, this is a sick question. Will she be considered a villain or a hero because of this? How would she be viewed by people?
I don't know. It depends on what she did as a guard. It depends on her actual actions.
Because my personal opinion is immediately, because she is a Holocaust denier, everybody's going to be against her. That's my opinion. They're all going to say she deserves it. She's a denier. It was an atrocity. So many people have passed away. And I would agree with that belief. What I'm objecting is not her denying the Holocaust, is the fact that she's being imprisoned because that she's denying the Holocaust. And I mean, that's a very subtle difference, because in my mind, I believe everybody should. Oops. I'm sorry. How long was my mic muted? Did it just go muted?
It muted for like half a second.
Oh, okay. I saw it muted and I wanted to make sure what the case was. So, yes. So, I'm sorry. So, in this case, I believe that she should have the freedom to believe what she wants to believe.
She can believe whatever she wants as long as she's quiet about it.
Correct. But in this case, she's not. So she's being thrown in prison in her country because it's illegal to have that belief.
In which case, I can't feel sorry for her because it's a self-inflicted wound at that point.
She's choosing her own destiny. Yeah. Because she knows what she's flat out saying. If you deny this, this is what we're going to do to you. So what does she say? I'm denying it. And that's exactly what happens. And it makes it a very sad case. But if anything, I think this 95-year-old will probably spend the rest of her life in prison. That's at this point, she's that old.
Do I think it's right to lock her up for that? No. But
and I mean, this also brings an interesting question. And I mean, I know this could get into an old debate, but when you're that up there in age, should you be imprisoned? Should there be allowances for?
Again, it depends on what you did. No, I don't think you should get a get out of jail because old card.
Okay.
I don't think that should be a thing at all. But it's not like in this situation, she's being accused of something violent. She's denying violence, sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're
weird.
right. If she was on trial for her crimes as a Nazi officer, then this would be a totally different conversation. It would be a different conversation. But she's not being tried as a Nazi officer. She's just being tried for denying the Holocaust, for being a Holocaust denial.
It's pretty weird, but that's their laws.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you think justice is fractured in this case? And
I do, yeah.
I think it's a self-inflicted wound. I think she's being stubborn, and I don't know.
It's a tough call on this one. But we'll have to hear what happens more to Ursula, but I have a feeling Ursula is not going to probably have that much time left in the state that she's in, the current age bracket that she's in. So yeah. So I'm almost thinking that the follow-up to this particular case will be her obituary. That's the sad thing to say. That's probably what the follow-up to this particular case will be.
The next case?
Let's go to the next one. Okay.
Oh gosh, this guy.
I'm not laughing. I'm laughing because I want to point to this one up here. All you gamers out there, I'm going to waggle my finger at the gamers out there, okay? You guys can be nuts. No comment on that one?
Okay, not this nuts.
All right, so let's talk about little old Thomas Humphrey. 47 years old, and his mom, he lives with his mom. His mom, for his 47th-year-old birthday, gave him a PlayStation 5 so he can play his video games, he can ignore her, he can do whatever he wants. However, your old sweet mom was saying, son, can you turn down that PlayStation? It's a little too loud. So what does he do? He goes upstairs to his mom, stabs her 22 times, practically decapitates her, and then lights her body on fire to burn her body, and then basically went back down to the basement. And I think you were reading that he had some self-inflicted wounds when the police found him.
When the police found him, he was at the bottom of the stairs with self-inflicted wounds, probably from the stabbing, because kitchen knives get really hard to handle once they get wet. And what makes them wet? Oh, stabbing people.
Yes. And not stabbing once. We're talking stabbing 22 times to the point that her head is practically decapitated. It's we got to admit, between the spinal cord, between all that, the bones and stuff like that, it's a little hard to completely sever the head. But he's stabbing her to the point where he almost decapitating her. And all because she wanted him to quiet down the PlayStation.
This is a lot of rage.
That is hatred. That is rage. That is. But I mean, okay, he's 47 years old and he's still living at home with his mom. Now, okay, granted, in this economy, the way rent prices are going up, you almost have to. Kids nowadays have to stay at home. That's sad, but it's.
Or.
What'd you say? I missed what you said.
Was he taking care of her?
Good question. I mean, for him to be 47, she's probably, they didn't say how old she is, but I'm going to guess she's in her 70s. So she's probably old, maybe a little senile, maybe doesn't want loud noise. Because when you get up there in age, loud noises is too distracting. It gets where you just want things a little bit quieter. He's probably like with the gun, like when you play the games. Because you know something, even me, when other people play games, sometimes it gets a little annoying with all the, and then of course, if they're like gamers with the whole system and this and that, they're going to be talking to the screen, they're going to be talking to their friends, they're going to be cursing up the storms that they're playing. And like I said, you gamers, you all do the same thing, whether you think you don't do it or not. You're screaming at the screen as you're playing.
Okay.
Notice you
But
didn't say anything.
here's the thing:
Yes.
a set of headphones would have saved this woman's life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It probably would have. And I mean, you don't even have to spend expensive amount. You can literally get a set of headphones for a dollar. What is it, $1.35 now at Dollar Tree? $1.35. They have headphones that you could plug in. Yes, they're not the fancy ones or anything like that, but they're still as good. If not, a nice set of $20 headphones you can get. Not a big deal. If you just spend $800 on a PS5 or whatever the going price is on the PlayStation, you can invest in either a $1.25 pair of headphones or invest in something like that. The fact that he didn't, and he had so much rage that he's going and killing his mom, stabbing her 22 times. That's bad.
I'm wondering if he had some other mental health issues or something that were unreported, because how do you go from annoyed video gamer to bloody murderer like that?
But here's a question
There's
for
some
you.
escalation there.
I'm also going to question and throw this back. Do you remember all those cases in the 80s and 90s with Congress saying how violent video games and the violent rap
Oh
songs?
yeah, those were bullshit.
Well, this is almost one of those cases that are proving exactly how the violence of video games will spur violence but in this case, it's not the youth. This is a 47-year-old grown man who's doing this to his mother. This is not some 15, 16-year-old that is going on through hormone problems or anything like that. This is a 47-year-old man.
In those cases that they were trying to say that video games and music were causing violence, it was found that that's crap.
Correct.
Total
Yes.
crap.
I agree.
But this guy, he doesn't, I don't know what his deal is.
Well, I will say this. He does have the crazy eyes. That's one of those things. Have you ever noticed that with all these people, they all have the same type of crazy eyes? Or do they purposely pick the pictures of them showing the crazy eyes?
It could be that.
Yeah.
This guy kind of looks like your average uncle, weird uncle. Probably divorced. Probably down on his luck. It's just the appearance.
This is just allegedly, this is just our opinions for entertainment purposes only. But see, that's the thing. I agree with you. This guy reminds me of somebody who is a shut-in, who doesn't have a girlfriend, who probably never been in a relationship before, or he's been in a bad relationship. He's still at home with his mommy. He's playing video games. He probably doesn't even have a job that he holds down. That's what I'm assuming based on this. I mean, yes, those are all assumptions. I have no idea if that's true or not. But I almost feel like if that's the cocktail that creates this type of psychosis in people.
I don't even think it would be that. You'd think he would have to have some kind of bad relationships or bad history to be able to do this. People usually don't just snap like this. I don't know.
That's a long time.
That you get tired.
Yeah.
22 in and out, that's...
I mean, okay, this is not the same thing, but I'm just going to give a scenario. How many people have actually been in like a boxing match or a sparring match or something like that? Just those punches exert so much energy that's why, like, even boxers or UFC fighters or anything like that, they're professionally trained. But your average person, to just have a fight, and in this case, to actually take a knife and pierce it through somebody's flesh to the point that you're chopping off their head, that requires a lot of exertion, a lot of power and anger and strength, and there was some self-inflicted wounds. Obviously that's what's going to happen. If you're stabbing something, you're going to be missing, the knife is going to be turning, it's when you hit a bone, it's going to chip and go this way. So yes, you will be injuring yourself, because it is going to take a lot to get through, to pierce through the bone, through the flesh, through all the blood that's going to make everything slippery. So it could explain all of his self-inflicted injuries fighting with his mom, because obviously if you're doing that, she's going to be fighting back in some way.
So he's getting murder charges and then arson charges afterward.
For lighting up her, yeah. And I'm probably thinking, I don't have the exact charges in front of me, but I'm probably thinking of I don't know what the term is, but where you're doing something bad to a body, like you're I don't know what the term is. Like where you're doing something to a corpse. I don't know what the term is, where you're disrupting like something along those lines. That's what I'm thinking of, being the fact that he burned her after she has already passed on.
He was charged with second-degree murder and arson. He pled guilty to both charges.
Okay. So no other charges then. Okay. All right. So that's poor Thomas Humphrey, 47th-year-old birthday. He's destroying his life, destroyed his mom's life, just for the sake of a PlayStation.
So 40 years in prison.
Desecrating. Desecrating. Thank you. The term I was looking for, desecration of a human body. That's the term I was looking for. I couldn't think of what the name was. Thank you, Don. Yeah. So desecration of a human body. He's listening. Yes, we have somebody listening, and I'm like, I can't think of what the term is. So he came out, desecration of a human body. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. So next case?
Next case, yes. Okay, this case.
I didn't read up on this case, so you're going to have to take us through it.
All right. Last week, we reported a very horrific case that you're going to hear a lot about. And that was the story of the illegal migrants who took a 12-year-old girl, sexually assaulted her underneath a bridge for hours on end, and then took her body and just threw her in the river and disposed her in the river. This case is probably not, this case is not similar, but this case is going to come into light, and this just happened. So with this particular case, let me just pull it up because I can't read that small writing. All right. All right. So in this case, an illegal migrant fatally shoots 2 workers at a Texas Chick-fil-A. The 2 workers were allegedly shot and killed by an illegal migrant on Wednesday in the latest disturbing incident believed to have been committed by an asylum seeker. His name was Aved Bernardo Mendoza Argueta. He's a 37-year-old native of El Salvador, was arrested and charged with capital murder after he opened fire at the fast food joint in Irving, that's Texas, at 3:40 p.m. The 2 people that identified that were died at the scene was Patricia Portillo. The other victim is being withheld pending family notification. So this just happened. They didn't even notify the family yet. And I think that's horrendous that it's like it's already posted before even, but that's why they're withholding the victim. He fled the scene in his silver 1997 Honda sedan. It was tracked down and he was taken to custody around 2:50 a.m. And police confirmed that he had an ICE hold on him. So he was already in the system. Once again, they didn't say whether he had a what do you call an ankle monitor like the other one, but he did have an ICE hold on him. So he was already somebody that was processed in the system that under one set of political beliefs probably would have already been back to El Salvador. But now with the current situation of what is happening, where they release him here as they wait for their trial, this probably would have never happened. We don't know. But
the question, how did he get a gun?
Exactly. We don't know. I mean, I know there's a case right now that's up in this, well, it's probably going to be overturned or whatever, but there's a ruling right now that's being discussed on whether it is valid that illegal immigrants can hold a gun. Are they protected by the Second Amendment right? That's a case that's being discussed right now. And that's an interesting thing because here in Texas, basically, he can easily access a gun. I can go to a flea market right on the street. There'll be a table full of guns. I could point out a gun, say, "Oh, I really like that one." Give him whatever, $100 for the gun. Take it home. I'm like, "Great, I'm going to take this home." When I first saw that here in Texas, because I originally came from New York, I was flabbergasted. I could not believe that you can easily just get a gun just sitting on a table at a flea market.
You still have to do a background check and stuff.
A lot of these, I will say this, a lot of those flea markets and open markets and stuff like that, they don't do background checks. They just exchange the money, you take the gun, you walk away, and that's it.
I don't know that that's true, but okay.
So, but yes, if you go to a gun store, then yes, they do the correct background checks. They do this, they do that. But like I said, I've seen so many flea markets that just have the table of guns, and you talk to them, and there's no background check. There's no nothing. So, okay, is that legal? I don't know what the legalities are because I never really looked into it.
Personal sales, you still need ID and stuff.
But I mean, I almost want to say, I mean, this obviously happened in Texas. It is very, very easy to get a gun in Texas. Whether it's legal or illegal, it is very easy to get a gun. I'll just say that. So I don't think that's a question of how he got a gun. Should he have a gun? That might be a question. Should he legally be able to have a gun? That's up in the air.
Not.
But I know that's an ongoing case right now on whether illegal migrants are protected by the Second Amendment or not.
If you're an illegal migrant, why do you need a gun?
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Some people are going to argue with me on that one. That's fine.
But that brings a very, very interesting case. And I think we're going to hear, there's going to be, particularly now with election coming up, and we're not taking sides on elections, although I sometimes tease him because our political views are so different, but we're not trying to make this political. But what we're saying is with the upcoming election, you're going to hear more and more issues because obviously the border crisis is an ongoing discussion point. So you're going to see more and more cases like this. And that's what makes it a tragedy, is that there are going to be cases like this that are pointed out that are happening.
It's a tragedy that these things happen in the first place, but yeah.
Oh, yes. But what I mean, yes, but what I mean is there's so many cases, like it just keeps happening. And they always have to point out it was an illegal migrant, illegal asylum seeker. It shouldn't be that way. I mean, we could almost say this possibly would have never happened if the borders were closed to begin with, but we don't have that case. Everything's open border right now. And even if the borders were closed, people still get across anyway. So I'm not even saying closed borders is the answer, but I often wonder if they actually did follow the law of the land and they actually did what they were supposed to do in regards to illegal migrants, would these cases be as prevalent as they are now?
I'm still confused about the why of this case. Why would he do this?
It didn't. They didn't. Yeah, I don't know if it's a robbery. I don't know if it was like a lover's rage. We don't know. They didn't specify it. All they're talking about is him opening fire in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And I tried to do research. There's no answer on it because the case is just brand new. I mean, it literally happened, this morning? This morning. He was taken to 2:50 a.m. this morning, he was taken into custody. So that's how, like, now the story is. This just happened. It's not like something. So obviously, I think over the next couple of days, more and more information will come out. But he was taken into Thursday, because that's what. No, today's Wednesday.
Tomorrow.
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 Wait.
So was this last week?
Maybe this was last week. He was tracked down and taken to around 2:30. Okay, maybe this was last week. I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought today was Thursday. It's Wednesday. Okay, ignore me, guys. I got my days wrong. All right, so this was last week. Okay.
This case.
Oh, yeah. Mega Medagajev. We had to get a Russian translator to translate this. I'm not trying to laugh at it.
Names are hard.
This was a very the name of, we should highlight the name, so that I'm going to put the name in the chat so that you guys could see the name of this.
Highlight it.
Okay, but I'll put it in the chat. It took me a while to figure out what the name was. And I went to, like I said, Google Translator where it'll pronunciate foreign words. So how did we say it? And I wrote it in the thing. Hold on.
Megamagadchev.
There you go. So Megamagadchev. That's the name. Okay, so we have Justin Gray on the left, is accused of murdering Alan Roshansky, who's in the center, on the orders of Kenneth Johnson, who's on the right. They pleaded not guilty. Ruslan, two men lay on the sidewalk in a darkened street in Lomita. One carried a gun and he had no opportunity to use it. The other was tattooed with symbols of the Russian underworld, basically the mafia. Both had been shot a single time in the head. So the two people were Alan Roshansky and Ruslan Megomadgadchev. We got that name.
Yep, you got it.
I think we got that name. So basically, you've got the Russian mafia, and also they were where's the Aryan Brotherhood one? That was part of this, right?
Justin Gray.
Thank you. Justin Gray was part of the Aryan Brotherhood. So this was definitely a racial motivated attack. They charged, the mystery deepened when the federal prosecutors charged two reputed members of the Aryan Brotherhood, a crime syndicate of white inmates, with ordering their murders from a prison hundreds of miles away. Prosecutors haven't revealed how they believe the two men with ties to Russian and Israeli organized crime circles collided with the two alleged prison gang members, but through a review of court and prison records, they tracked their paths to the night of the killings. Each had his own dark past: the pimp, the strong arm for the Israeli mob, and the polite inmate who tried to kill a deputy, the teenage murderer who had cut out part of the informant's tongue. So this, I almost want to say, this is like, how am I going to say? This is like a soap opera and a half of what's going on. You've got the Russian mafia. You've got the Aryan Brotherhood. They're basically killing each other on the street. There was ties into the prison with prison inmates, and it's just one big confusing story.
I can't wait to hear more about this one.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
So Roshansky, here, I got the more of the article here. Roshansky, 36, had been shot behind his left ear. Beneath his jeans and Puma sweatshirt, a coroner investigator noted that he had tattoos, stars on his knees, and 4 dots on the back of his hand, with a 5th dot in the middle. So I'm assuming that those dots are some kind of Aryan Brotherhood, I don't know, symbolism or something. But we don't know. His markings are significant in Russia prison culture. An organized crime figure who served time in the Russian penal system. The source requested anonymous out of fear. Okay, so that's Russian mafia, Russia. It was a common mark of a prisoner. The 4 dots represents the walls, and the 5th represents the inmate restrained by them. The stars on the knees signify the refusal to kneel before authorities, such as your police or judges. It can only be worn by high ranking Russian convicts. Roshinsky has done prison time, but in California, those crimes didn't suggest the profiles of an upper echelon criminal. He served a year for pimping women in Hollywood, and according to the case brought by Los Angeles prosecutors, he advertised women's services on websites such as Backpage and negotiated prices and booked hotel rooms where he met the clients. And he took 20 or 30, so he was pimping them out, 20 to 30% of their earnings. Okay, so then in 2020, 2 years after leaving prison, he told a friend that some of his property had been stolen when he traveled to see his mother in another state. The day before he died, he told a friend that he got a call from someone who had his stuff. He needed to go to a trap house, a property where drugs were sold. His friend appeared very nervous, which was out of character, the detective wrote in the affidavit, and he called another friend. He said he had something he needed to do to cover his back. The friend was Megamogadzev. Did I say that right? So he contacted his friend. In 2008, two Israeli... Wait, is this the same story? Okay, this is talking about the friend Megamogadzev. So in 2008, two Israeli businessmen in Las Vegas fell out of partner with Yaakov Conan over allegations of embezzling from the chain of kiosks that sells cosmetics in the mall. In an attempt to force his partners to buy him out, they turned him in, described in the federal affidavit as an Israeli organized crime figure whose right arm had been amputated at the elbow after a pipe bomb he was trying to place under a car exploded. So this is getting, we got the Russian mafia, we got the Israeli mafia, we've got the Aryan Brotherhood, we got the prison. I mean, this case is getting weirder and weirder. You got the pimping, Hollywood pimping out. This case is really...
This could be a movie.
This is a movie. Okay, so threatening phone calls and notes left on the doorsteps failed to persuade the businessman to pay. Looking to hire some muscle, Barhumar was introduced to Megamogadzev through his boss in a moving company in Tarzana. Having served in the Russian military and a trained boxer, he told police he knew how to do things. And although his recent work has been mundane, he'd studied accounting in his native Chechnya before immigrating to Los Angeles around 2001. He wrote a letter to the judge. He worked as a golf course landscaper and later as a trucker and mover. How do you go from the Russian mob to a golf cart landscaper? All right. So anyway, so what happened? June 6th. This happened on June 6th. So Megamogadzev gave him $200 and a phone number to call once he reached Las Vegas. Make the guy know that if he doesn't pay up, things will not be nice where they are now. He and his brother met Cohen at a casino and followed them to the apartment complex where he pointed out the Infinity Coupe. The brothers waited and watched. The man unlocked the Infinity Coupe. They ambushed him, throwing him against the car, striking him in the head. He knocked him to the ground. The man drew a gun and started shooting. Megamogadzev was hit in the buttocks and the calf. Afraid to go to the local hospital, he and his brother drove 300 miles away to Tarzania, where they made up a story that they've been in a drive-by shooting. After pleading guilty across state lines in aid of racketeering, they spent 2 years in federal prison. So now we have the story of the Aryan Brotherhood alleged hitman. The sheriff's detectives surveying the street in Lamorta were baffled. Megamogadzev had a Tarzanian address, and Rozhansky was the last known living in San Diego. It remains unknown why they were located or where they were to meet. So the two of them were scheduled to meet, and they got into. But a month later, they got a call from the LAPD narcotics office, claimed to have overheard a man by the name of Justin Gray saying that we got these two Russian guys in Lomita. And according to the source, Gray had promised membership to the Aryan Brotherhood in exchange for killing. Oh my God, should I go on? The story goes on and on. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't realize it was this long. All right. What's the matter? Go ahead. Is it
What do you think of the story so far?
This is okay. I know you pointed it out. I didn't. I'll be honest. This is the first time I'm reading all the details on this. I didn't realize that this was this complex of a story. I mean, I almost want to say this is the beginnings of like a John Wick type action hero thing going around with the Russian mob. I mean, we need, like I said, we need like John Wick hitman going around with these guys or something like that. That's the vibes I'm getting with this.
This could have been its own episode by itself.
Exactly.
That's how deep this is. It's crazy.
Oh, wow. All right. I guess I should continue then. Oh, where did my notes go? I'm sorry, guys. All right. So just to go on. So a federal judge in Fresno indicted Gray on murder charges in 2023, accused them of ordering heads for two reputed members of the Aryan Brotherhood, Kenneth Kenwood Johnson and Francis Frank Clement. Along with the killings in Lomita, Clement is charged with ordering a murder from 2022 and a double homicide 2 weeks later in Pomona. Johnson and Clement are also accused of orchestrating yet another murder in 2016. So they're getting a whole list of charges against them. There's murders going years back. So now they pleaded not guilty, of course. The indictment reveals absolutely no motive. Prosecutors haven't said how they connected the two longtime prisoners to killings 100 miles away. But through his attorney, Johnson denied directing all the murders alleged in the indictment. But the 60-year-old was candid before the parole board about living what he called a homicidal society behind prison walls. Everybody in here, almost 90-something% in any high-security prison, are all murderers or pretty close to it. Violence is part of the environment, like it or not. And even if you don't want to be involved in it, you'll have to find one way or another. You know something? That right there. This is what I'm stopping for a minute because this to me is what fractured justice is. So you mean to tell me he's saying from behind prison wall, 90% of any high security prisons, they're all murderers anyway? And they're still doing things from behind prison walls?
Mm-hmm. And they've got to do stuff to just stay alive sometimes because they could piss somebody off and not know it and get shanked over it.
I mean, I almost feel like that almost makes our justice system even more fractured. Prison is supposed to be the way to rehabilitate, but are we actually rehabilitating, or are we?
The last time we did that? It's a punitive system.
There is no rehabilitation. If anything, we are. I almost want to say you come out of prison with more arsenal on how to do bad things than you did before you went into it. Is that an accurate way of saying it?
In some cases, that has been shown to be true. Not all cases, but a lot of cases. Yeah. Is they get to do things like network together.
Yeah. You're in a closed, confined place. You immediately are going to find your crowd, however it may be.
And tempers are going to be hot.
You're going to make either enemies or friends. And I don't know.
You're going to have to do business in order to survive. That business doesn't always entail legal things.
It almost makes you wonder, is prison the answer for crimes? I mean, is that a proper punishment for people's crimes?
I suppose it depends on the type of crime. Okay. But you know me, I'm from Texas. So I'm going to say no on that one. There's a reason that we have things like death penalty for violent crimes. With a fast track.
I agree with that. I am for the death penalty. But the small percentage of people who are truly innocent That's the only thing that I'm against the death penalty is what if you're actually killing somebody who actually was innocent? And that's why to me, it tugs at the heartstrings that I'm on the fence on that as far as should that be the way? Because I mean, I almost feel like if you did a crime, you show absolutely no remorse, you're just easily going to do it again. There's no, then yes. But what if you're genuinely not guilty? You're being wrongfully accused. There's no way to prove that you didn't do it, and you're being killed. But then again, even the fast track, it still takes years and years and years before you get the death penalty.
Because we have an appellate system. So you appeal if you're not guilty.
But once again, it takes so long.
It does, and people abuse the system in and out from start to finish. And if they've got money, then they're able to string it out even longer. It's not ideal, but it's the system we've got.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Florida Man for a moment.
Yeah. Why? Okay, I have to ask this. I'm going to make an assumption. I'm sorry, guys. Why is it the weirdest stories happen in Florida? It happens time and time again. I almost want to say Florida is notorious for some of the weirdest stories to come out. And this one takes the case of weirdness. Just before I give the details, just imagine your roommate running out of the apartment carrying the dead torso of his roommate.
Just the torso.
Just the torso. The head was found in the garbage can. The arms and legs were chopped off somewhere, strewn all over the. He's running around. And I mean, I'm not trying to make light of this stuff, but when you hear stories like this, it's like, what is it? I almost want to say, okay, I want them to do like a test on the water in Florida or something that's happening with the air quality or something like that. Because why are all these crazy things happening in Florida? So police ended up shooting the Fort Myers man, shot him dead because he was running around with the bloody decapitated, dismembered, whatever you would call it, dismembered torso of his roommate, and he's running around with it. I can't. I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing. It's a horrific story, but it's what is going on with people.
This one is just absolutely vile and crazy.
So the victim, unfortunately, was a 65-year-old blind man by the name of Bonita Francois. And he had reportedly refused to leave the home per the landlord. So it sparked an argument between the one tenant and him. So I don't know if it was supposed to be just leaving at that moment or a permanent leave where he was getting kicked out or something like that. They didn't specify, but basically he refused to leave the home for whatever reason. So his roommate went crazy and started, and it was 33-year-old Willie Lumaine was the roommate that did the killing, the alleged killing. Why am I saying alleged? He was carrying the torso of this guy. I'm trying not to laugh. I'm not. This is a horrific story. It's that horrific. So the Fort Myers man is accused of murdering, dismembering his roommate in home, holding the partial bloody torso. He was fatally shot by police after report that he was actively killing his roommate. I'm sorry if you're carrying your roommate's torso. I think it's well beyond actively killing you killed your roommate already. You're carrying pieces. His head was found in the garbage can. I mean, this poor guy.
This case, there were 4 cops. 2 of them with tasers, 2 of them with guns. They're all currently, I believe it's suspended with pay, waiting for review. I believe that's what it said.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna side on the police on this side. You have a guy running around with with a bloody torso of the victim. I,
Yeah, what are you supposed to think?
and you're gonna. I mean, okay, are they gonna try the cops that the cops were found that they used excessive force in this case? I mean, okay, I think if he's running around with a bloody torso, he probably was a danger to himself, danger to his society, and danger to the cops.
Think about this though. The man had so much energy, he was able to kill this old guy, chop him up, and still run around with the fucking torso.
Watch your language. You can't say. Watch your language. We don't have to beep that out. You get a lovely little beep beep.
Sorry.
That's okay.
This how do you do that?
But you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm just getting this image as if it's a teddy bear. I can't. I shouldn't even say that. Like he's carrying a doll. He's carrying a human torso, bloody in his hands. I mean, I'm wondering if the guy was naked too. I think that not that it's funny, but it's like, was this guy doped up on some sort of drugs? Like, was he on the zombie drug or something like that that causes you to go nuts? That he's carrying around this bloody torso?
I don't
And
know, but
I mean, I almost want to say that I think in this case, maybe the police were justifiable in shooting him. I think that might be.
and the fact that the suspect's wife and children saw this,
Oh, that makes it even worse. Yes, this was done in front of the kids. Like his children witnessed. And I mean, that's horrific. What are they going to say? Daddy, mommy, why is he carrying around a bloody torso? That's horrible. I'm shocked at this story. I'm seriously, this story just shocks me. And yes, this just happened this week. So if anybody's wondering when this happened, these are up to the minute stories. And I almost find this a tragedy that we are getting up to the minute stories like this that keep happening. And we'll be back here next week with more stories. But
I don't know that we'll have time to even touch on these stories because there will undoubtedly be more.
more. And police said the victim's mutilated and dismembered body parts were found all over the home. And he was blind. He was a 65-year-old blind victim.
The head was outside next to the trash can. What the F?
And the torso was in his arms as he's getting shot by the police because he's going around hugging it and holding it. That's just I don't even know how to describe that. I really don't. But you know something? How about this? We've got one more story. But before we get to we got one more story. Yes. And you know something? We're leaving the story on an interesting note. Because you know something? When it comes to, we're going to say true crime, not all crimes are necessarily horrific. We try to bring you a collection of what's been happening, what things. And like I said, some of these stories will completely tug at your heartstrings. I mean, these are graphic, these are chilling, they're disturbing. But sometimes things happen in the criminal world that are just too funny that we have to announce it. So do you want to take this next story or do I get to take this?
You get to do this next story.
I love it. Okay, so this is an Oklahoma story. And what happens? Oh, hey, Valerie's in the house. Mommy just came home. You just got here for the very last story. So sit back and enjoy this story. You can read the backtrack on this. But here we go. A state trooper in Oklahoma, had a close encounter with a UFO on an Oklahoma roadway. The highway patrol said that 2 women in the vehicle were on their way to a UFO festival in Roswell, New Mexico. Now, here's what the problem is. Why are we bringing up this story? Because it is against the law. That is not a made for the road type of a vehicle. And if you look at the picture and the cop is smiling at us anyway, it is literally a UFO spaceship. It doesn't have mirrors. It doesn't have lights. It doesn't have your brake lights. It literally is a flying saucer on wheels.
And most importantly, their tags were covered. That's why they were pulled over.
They didn't have their tags. Well, wait. Can't they proclaim that they are sovereign citizens that are on their way for travel, so they don't need their tags? And
even if they do, they still are going to get pulled over.
They still will get pulled over. Yes, I almost want to say they'll get away with this with the sovereign citizen, but the fact is, yes, they are going to a UFO convention in a metal UFO disc thing that they covered over their car, which unfortunately they covered the license plate, they covered the tags. They're not able, and it wasn't up to what I guess safety codes as to a roadway vehicle. So the police officer stopped them. And look at this smile. Have you ever seen a crime that had such a smile on their face? I mean, if you even look at the women in the car are smiling as well. So I have to say, this is one of those fractured justice cases where, yes, it's against the law. Yes, they broke the law. But you have to admit, this is cute and funny.
And I'm thankful that this one got a pretty happy ending.
Yeah. So guys, we've been on for just a little over an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, which that's basically what we plan on doing with future shows. Obviously, we hope people will comment on this when they watch the replay. You can always put your comments down below. If you haven't subscribed, double check to make sure that you are subscribed. Hit the little bell. Make sure you get notified because we will be doing the show every Wednesday. If you haven't heard about Dubby is an energy drink. We have the code Maledictus, which is also, you want to talk about Maledictus?
Our podcast.
Yes, talk about it. Let's hear about it.
We have a horror narration podcast that we do weekly on Fridays.
And not only, okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, not only is it on a podcast, I put it to a visual movie, which I do put on YouTube as well. It's just that takes a couple extra days after the podcast to premiere. But go on. I'm sorry.
And you can hear our podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you like horror stories, it's something great to just turn on and leave on in the background while you're doing whatever you're doing throughout your day.
Do you recall what our next story is this Friday?
Ooh, what is our next story?
Ooh, I almost want to say the Valley Girl, but you.
Our next story is called The Live Stream.
The Live Stream.
And this is one that is an original story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as proud of this one as I am of this past week's episode.
Aw, don't say that. Each one is different. We've chosen to actually write our own stories. So we've been doing a collaboration and throwback ideas on different stories. So sometimes there'll be certain different topics. And I think this will be an interesting thing. There was a tease on it because when we originally did the recording, I did it in a Valley Girl voice. And you can see him cringing like that. He did not like I didn't like the Valley Girl voice either. However,
I would have minded it if you had been able to hold that voice through the whole reading.
You're right. I couldn't hold the Valley Girl voice. So because I couldn't hold the Valley Girl voice the entire reading, we realized, let me redo it and re-record it. But it is a great reading called The Live Stream. And I don't want to ruin what it's all about, but stay tuned because that's going to be dropping on Friday. And in a couple of days, I will drop a video version of it. So if you like the visual aspect, in addition to the audio aspect, it will also be dropping on YouTube a couple of days later.
So just give us a listen, share it with your friends if you like it, and we appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. And once again, if anybody has any thoughts, comments, if you have your own stories that you would like us to research, read, or and I'm talking about true crime, but I'm also talking about the horror podcast as well, please contact us. I mean, we're very open. We love to hear feedback, and we love to hear what the audience has to say in regards to our shows. This is only our second show on this one, and we will be back next Wednesday with, unfortunately, more true crimes. I say unfortunately, I should say, well, we're hoping that it's not as horrific as it's been, but at the rate that things are going now, we just hope it's not going to be as sick and horrific as it's been.
So until next time, everyone stay sane and sober, and if you can't stay sober, stay safe.
Yes. And most importantly, have a safe, healthy, and happy 4th of July. Be careful, particularly if you are drinking, or be mindful of those around you when you're driving home, because this is that time of season where things do happen. So everyone, have a great night. Enjoy. We will see you next week, and stay tuned to Friday as we have the live stream, our new horror podcast with a Maledictus horror podcast. Take care, everyone.